Hi guys, I'm Charlie Book Fanatic, and today we're going to film my March wrap-up. I am really energetic today, and I don't know why. I just feel like singing the whole time, you know? But you don't want me to sing because my voice would die. So we're going to continue on with the tradition I started in February, which is statistics. And I'm going to move over a bit because I made some pie charts with my statistics, which I will explain further. As you know, I'm really into diversity, and I'm keeping track of the books I read by authors of color and by white people, and the books I read with LGBTQ plus elements in them, and the books I read without those elements, you know, and books written by people of color and books written by white people. And I think I already said that, but I meant to say books with people of color in them and people with only white people in them. Oh my god, I meant books with only white people in them. I keep track of that shit. It's going to be in the pie chart. That's what I'm saying right now. That is what's going to happen. Words are so difficult. So we're going to start off with books written by people of color. In the month of March, I read in a total amount of 16 books, which is a lot, like 16 novels. Like, yes. Actually, I don't know. I think I read a manga as well. I'll just keep one manga, 15 novels. Okay, don't shoot me. And 3 of them were written by people of color. And one moment, please. I can't do maths. Oh my god. 3 of them were written by people of color, and 13 of them were written by white people. 11 of those books were written by female authors, and 5 of those books were written by male authors. 6 of the 16 books were set in another country than North America or England. 2 books had LGBTQ plus elements in them, and 14 books didn't. 8 books had people of color in them, and 8 didn't. 4 of those books were historical fiction, 10 were contemporary, 3 were fantasy, and 1 was science fiction. 8 of the books I read were young adult, and the other 7 were adult books. And one of those 16 books was a manga, the other 15 ones were novels. I had 0 1-star books, 2 2-star books, 9 3-star books, 4 4-star books, and 1 5-star book. So I'm going to go with the author's name in alphabetical order again from my sheets here. I will go off from that. Like, this is not in the order I read the books, this is in the alphabetical order based on the author's last name. So the first book on that list is 13 Reasons Why by H.R.H. This is a standalone book, and H.R.H. is a male author. I gave this book 2 stars, and I will also leave my Goodreads reviews for any of these books down below, because I do reviews on all of the books I read. Some are longer, some are shorter, but this book I gave it 2 stars, and I was set on giving it 3 stars until I was writing up my review, and I went on to a rant because of the main character, Clay. Is that a helicopter? Seriously? It's gone. I went on to a rant because of the main character, Clay, and I will tell you why, and this is non-spoilery. Like, Clay, like, the book is basically about a girl named Hannah who commits suicide and who commits suicide and leaves all of these tapes for all of the people who did something wrong by her. And Clay is one of those people that gets a tape dedicated to him, and the whole book, Clay blamed Hannah for not talking to him. But for not talking to him about suicide, like about wanting to commit suicide, like not asking for help. And I get that he blames her. Like, I get that people can blame other people for committing suicide, and for not asking help. But in this case, Clay didn't know Hannah. Like, he did know Hannah, but not that well. Like, they kissed one time at a party, and Hannah dedicated a tape to him, but it was like they didn't really know each other. They kissed one time, they worked together, but they didn't really talk to each other, and he blamed Hannah for not asking him for help. Like, you kissed one fucking time and you never spoke to her after again. Even though you wanted to, you were afraid because she avoided you. Like, confront her, dude. Like, don't avoid her. Why would she ask you for help if you don't speak to her? I really honestly can't deal with blaming people who commit suicide. Hannah felt bad. Hannah didn't want to live anymore. On this tape she tells you exactly why, and you are a judgmental prick. Rant over, not going to talk about this anymore. Move on. If the camera is a bit lower, you're going to notice now why that is. My tripod is a stack of books, and the book I needed at this point in time was a book that was in that stack, but it will be added back in a minute. But the second book I read was Emma by Jane Austen, which has this lovely cover. I have this lovely edition, and it's a Wordsworth classic edition, and I absolutely love it. I found it in a second-hand bookshop. This book is about a sassy character named Emma who's trying to play matchmaker and match a pair of all of her friends together with each other, but she's dead set on not getting married ever herself. And this book is basically all about romance, but also about society and judgment, and it's really, really good. Like, I was bored. I tried to read this book for so many times, and I was bored always. Like, I tried to listen to the audiobook, I didn't like it. But when I actually set a goal for myself, like, to read it, I was just, like, when I finished it, I was enjoying it so much. I think I gave this 4 stars. It was a 4-star read for me. And I want to read more by Jane Austen after reading this. I think this was a good first choice for me, because I have never read anything by Jane Austen before, and if you have never read Jane Austen before, I think this would be a really good start for you as well, because Emma is really sassy, and Jane Austen said about Emma as a character that she would write a character that nobody liked much but herself, and I really liked Emma. Like, Emma was my favourite character in this book. And this book was basically a 2-star, 3-star read for me most of the way through, until I got to the second half of the book. Like, I was expecting this book to be, from the synopsis, like a girl who goes to an elite ballet school and learns how to dance ballet even better. She gets the lead in The Firebird, which is the ballet that they're going to perform with at school, and her sister went to this school, but her sister disappeared. Like, Margaret, her sister disappeared. That is the only thing that made me think, like, oh, there's going to be a dark aspect to this book. I even forgot about the prologue, which was kind of dark, but I forgot about it while reading the book. Then I got to the second half of the book, and things got crazier, the book got faster paced, and I rate this book 4 out of 5 stars. Like, the rating got bumped up for me because of the mystery aspect to this, and because this book is basically a paranormal read, and I expected a contemporary read, like a light contemporary read about a girl who finds herself, who's coming of age, who's trying to find her sister, but it was so much more than that. Like, it was actually paranormal. There were paranormal elements to this, and it almost felt like the main character, Vanessa, went crazy, but that was the point of the book. Like, all the girls who dance in The Firebirds, which they perform once every few years, all the girls had gone crazy because of this ballet, and eventually they disappeared. But there was a character, I think she was called TJ, who was a black girl, and she was a friend of the main character, and there's also a guy named Blaine in the book who is gay. Like, you always have a gay character in a ballet school, right? Because there's not tropey or stereotypical at all. Then I read Made to Kill, which is the first book in the LA trilogy by Adam Christopher, and this book had people of colour in them, and not necessarily the main character, because the main character is a robot, and his sidekick is a computer, but there were references to Chinese people in this. Like, there were Chinese people in this, but they were just not a huge part of the book, if you know what I mean. But there were people of all different ethnicities in this. I rate this book 3 out of 5 stars. Like, I want to read the other 2 books in the series, or at least try the sequel, but I didn't really get into it, if you know what I mean. I liked it, I liked the premise, I liked how it read, but it felt slow. Like, it felt really slow going for me, and it felt kind of average. Like, I enjoyed it, but it wasn't anything spectacular or something. Like, it was just a case this robot Ray had to solve, and it felt weird to me. Like, the whole plot was weird. Like, there is this kind of these Russians who are... It was so weird. I don't even know how to explain it. Like, they were kind of demons, Russian demons, who possessed these bodies of these celebrities, and they could switch from their Russian alter egos to their own self, but not like consciously. It was so weird. It's like a Russian mafia type of thing who are trying to conquer and take over the world. Then I read Playlist for the Dead, which is a standalone book, and it has also LGBTQ plus elements in them, and it was written by Michelle Farkov, who is a person of color. And the LGBTQ plus elements were, you could find, like, it wasn't a huge aspect of the book, but the best friend of the love interest in this book was a gay character. I also rate this book 3 out of 5 stars. Like, this book is an example of how to use a playlist in a story. But I read some other reviews after I read the book, and it was like, these songs didn't really add that much to the story, and that's true as well. Like, every chapter started with a different song, but all of these songs, like, weren't really needed in the story. Like, the story revolved all around this playlist that Hayden, who has committed suicide, has left for his best friend to find, and eventually the mystery doesn't really get solved with the playlist. Like, the mystery around the playlist is never solved at the end of this book, and it's a standalone, so it's not going to be solved in a sequel either. This book was a fun read. I cried only one time. It was at the beginning of the book at Hayden's funeral, but I never cried after that, and I didn't like the romance between the main character and his love interest. I just felt it was too rushed, and I didn't like the love interest as a character either. On top of that, I didn't feel any particular affinity for the main character, so that really... I just gave it 3 stars because of the story and because of Hayden and how it all played out, but not for the characters themselves. I read Fire, which is the first book in the Elemental series by L.B. Gilbert, and this book has people of colour in it. L.B. Gilbert is also a person of colour, and I rated this book 3 out of 5 stars. Fire was about a fire elemental called Diana, who is trying to find this little girl, Katie, who went missing for the 2nd time, and about the vampire, Alec, who's looking for this little boy from a servant of his, who also went missing, and Alec and Diana meet up that way, and they're trying to find these kids together. And it's basically, the story, I give it 3 stars because of the story. Like, the story was really cool, and I'm really interested in the magic system. The magic system was so good about this elemental magic, and the world building. Like, the world building and the magic system was all really good. That was what made me give it 3 stars. But I wasn't a fan of the romance. I'm going to say that. Like, I really like Diana. She's feisty, she's sarcastic, she's kind of arrogant, but really likable. But I didn't like Alec. Alec was way too protective of Diana, which I do not like in a guy. Like, I like a protective guy, but he was overprotective, and he was also so jealous. Like, when a guy looked at Diana, he was like, oh my god, I'm going to kill him, and I don't like that. Like, stay away from me, you scary ass bitch. Like, I can choose with whom I speak. I can choose who I look at. Like, you don't have to protect me. I can, like, walk around. Especially Diana. Diana was even stronger than Alec was, and he was just trying to protect her while she could save them both, and he just failed. Like, what? That is just so illogical to me. Then I read Frontlines, which is the first book in the Soldier Girls trilogy. This book had people of colour in it, and it was written by Michael Grant, and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. This book was so good. Honestly, I was so happy I finally had a 4-star read, because I was getting so sad after all of these 3-star reads. Like, honestly, it was making me mad. But this book is about 3 girls. It's written from 3 perspectives, from a perspective of a Jewish girl, from a black girl, like, you get the people of color, I just earlier said, the element to it, and we have a white straight girl, you know, and they are all enlisting to fight in the war. Like, this is an alternate history of when women could fight in the Second World War, and that's exactly what happens. Like, we have the Jewish character, Rainey Schulterman. I think she got placed into intelligence. Then we had I forgot all of the names, so I'm just going to go through the stereotypes. Like, then we had the white girl who got placed on the front lines. Like, she had to actually shoot a gun, and I thought, like, that traumatic experiences in this book were dealt with so beautifully as well. Like, it was really realistic. It's like someone said they shot someone for the first time and was not like, oh my god, I have to shoot everyone now, but it was like, oh my god, I just killed a person. And that was really well executed. And then we had the black girl who was a doctor, like a medic in her camp. Like, black people and white people were separated from each other. Like, black people had their own camp and white people had their own camp, and black people were treated with racism. Like, they were treated like they were dirt, basically. And that was really realistic for that time as well. Like, racial issues were dealt with so good. Also, just the black girl really had everything against her because she was treated less for being black, but she was also treated less for being a woman. Like, girls who enlisted in this war were always treated like I'm sorry, who were always treated like they were less than the men, because women are naturally weaker than men. And it was so good to read about these 3 different women who have strengths in all different fields. Like, the white straight girl I was so proud of her when she did more push-ups than some guys could. Like, that was so good. Like, she had to do 25 push-ups and none of the girls could do it except for her. Like, she pushed through and she came out on top, and I absolutely loved that. Like, you rooted for all of these characters, you wanted them to do good, but what I did feel like was that this book was mostly focused on Rio, is what she's called, the straight white girl. The book was mostly focused around her, and her point of view was mostly zoomed in on, and the other girls were kind of side characters, but they also had their own point of view, but less than Rio. And I felt like that was kind of racism in itself, you know, like, not zooming in on all characters equally. But I get that, but it's kind of weird that you then zoom in on the straight white girl and not on the black girl or on the Jewish girl, like, you know what I mean? There were no standalone, which was Chasing Spring, which had no LGBTQ plus elements and no people of colour in them, at least not mentioned. And this book was written by R.S. Gray, and I rated it 3 out of 5 stars. This was a contemporary read, and it's basically focused all about on Lila, and I forgot the guy's name because, yeah, you know, it's been a while since I've read it. It focused in on Lila and her love interest. It's basically all about them getting back together. Well, I rated 3 stars. It was not really my kind of read because I don't like the dark girl has to be rescued by this guy. She experienced something traumatic and she can't get out of it, and she doesn't want to speak to this guy, but then this guy moves into their house because he has an alcoholic dad and he can't live at home anymore, and they are confronted with each other because this girl's coming home as well, and they have to live in the same house, and they slowly open up to each other, and this guy is trying to save her and get him back to her and get her back to him, I mean. And I'm not for that kind of trope. I would like to call it a trope because it is used so many times over and over. But why I gave it 3 stars was because of the past. Like, Lila's mother did some things that weren't orthodox and weren't, like, ethical, and she also got a point of view, like when she was a young girl and also when she was older, like we got some flashbacks from her point of view, which I really liked personally. And I liked seeing how her mother actually thought and how her mother wasn't the black and white being that Lila had always thought she was. Like, her mother was all black to her. There wasn't a grey area there. Her mother couldn't be a good person because she did all those things, and that is not necessarily true. Someone can do really terrible things, but that doesn't mean they are inherently a bad person. They can be or a good person. Like, someone who does good things doesn't have to be a good person. Like, someone is just a person. People do bad and good things, but that doesn't make them good or either bad. Then I read Romance in the Dark and the City of Light, which is also standalone, and it involved people of colour, and it's written by Jacobus. And I gave it 2 out of 5 stars. This was also a contemporary read, but the weirdest damn read I have ever had, I think. Like, honestly, I did not expect this. Like, I expected a dark contemporary because that was what it said in the synopsis. But I also expected a love triangle because that was what it said in the synopsis. Like, a light guy and a dark guy, you know? But there was so much diversity in this. One of the love interests, I would just call them that because I don't know what I can say because most of it can be considered as a spoiler. But one of the love interests is, I forgot his name as well, but he is a foreigner and he also has a handicap. I don't remember exactly what he had, but he has a limp, he can't walk properly, and he had an accident, I believe, and he had to have all of these surgeries to fix him, but it never actually really worked. It never could fully fix him. And I thought that was really unique. Like, someone with a handicap who is not considered pitiful or anything like that, but is considered like a real, actual person with feelings and thoughts and just everything like that, you know? He was just physically deformed. He had a physical deformity, but that doesn't mean he isn't a person anymore or that he wasn't mentally stable or anything like that. And that was depicted really well in this book. But the main character was so annoying. I think she was called Summer, but she was so annoying. Like, she had this alcohol problem and she constantly fell back into that alcohol problem. And I know that is something that alcoholism does to you, but every time she promised this love interest of hers that she would not drink anymore, and then she did. Immediately after she promised him she would not do it. Like, 5 minutes after that, she picked up her vodka bottle and she drank and drank and drank. Even after she went to AA meetings, she was like, no, I can't deal with this on my own. I need to drink right now. And she felt like she was taking after her father because her father was like... Her father drank like crazy and she didn't want to be like her father, but she felt like she was her father. And that was one of her insecurities, but I didn't like that about her, and it annoyed me a lot that she constantly fell back in that behavior, even though she promised everyone around her she wouldn't do it anymore and she would seek help for that. And then there was this other love interest who is called Kurt. And Kurt was just, I don't know what ethnicity he was, but he could speak French, and she met him at a graveyard. Like, that is suspicious as hell, but okay. I always talk to people from graveyards, and he popped up everywhere Summer went. At that point in time, I wasn't like, oh, this book is going to go in this direction. But this book went in a hella weird direction. Like, it went all ways, and I didn't see where the story was going, and it was so weird. But I can't say what I want to say because that would be a spoiler because it's further in the book. But the other love interests, like the foreigner who had this physical deformity, he did something, like he told someone not to do something, and then he went on and did the same thing as her. Like, it was like, I can't do this anymore, and like, it was so weird. I was like, you just said to her that she shouldn't do it anymore, that she shouldn't do that, and then you went on and did that like 5 minutes later. That is not really a good example. But they were both not really good examples, you know. Summer was hella weird. This guy's love interest of hers gave up on her again and again and again. And she didn't really even know him, but she was like, I need this guy. I need him. I can't lose him. He is everything I have. But she kept making these mistakes. And she was like, I know it's selfish, but I need him. And even though I keep making these mistakes, I will go to him and I will say to him, I will not drink anymore. And then he came back to her and she hurt him all over again. Like, I know the exact pattern, but you need to get out. This relationship is not going to work out ever. This behavior is abusive, destructive. This relationship is not going to work out between you because she suffers from alcoholism. She can't stop drinking and she keeps hurting you over and over and over again after she promises you that she wouldn't do it anymore. And that happened like 3 times, and I was like, please, just give up. It's not going to happen. You can see that, right? You, which is the first book in the You series by Caroline... Whoa, what did I just say? You, the first book in the You series by Caroline Kepnes. I rate this book 3 out of 5 stars. This book is also contemporary, but contemporary thriller. Okay, let's see. I read You because some people raved about it, and the synopsis sounded something like that I would really enjoy. Like, it was about from the viewpoint of a stalker who stalks this woman and wants to be with her, and does all of these weird things like killing people to be with her, and she doesn't know all of this stuff obviously, but they get in a relationship and he is doing all of these weird things like stealing her underwear to keep in his wall, and just stalking her, like, where is she going, who is she texting, who is she emailing, what is she saying about me, where is she going at all times of day. In this book you were supposed to be rooting for this stalker, but from the first page on, the writing style was so vulgar. Like, Joe, the main character, the stalker, had all these vulgar thoughts, and like spoke in a really distasteful manner. Like, he spoke normally to this woman Beck, who he was stalking through the whole book, but his thoughts were so disgusting, and I was like disgusted from the first page on by him. And I read this whole fucking book, and you were supposed to root for this character, you were supposed to root for him to get the girl, but I wasn't rooting for him at all. I was just thinking, like, he's crazy, and you were supposed to let these thoughts go and root for him, but I couldn't. I was like, this is not normal. He's crazy. He's stealing her underwear. He's killing people to get to her. Like, Beck, notice this, please get out. But Beck wasn't really innocent herself. Like, she was manipulative as hell. Like, she emailed her girlfriends. She couldn't get anyone to go with her to IKEA to get something like a new bed, and she only had Joe, but she didn't talk to Joe for a while. She went on a couple of dates with him, wasn't really interested in him, and then she suddenly was like, I have nobody to help me get this stuff. Like, she was with this guy Benji originally, but Benji went away. Like, Joe kidnapped him basically because he wanted to get Benji out of the way. But like, she didn't have anyone to go with her to IKEA, so she texted Joe, hey, do you want to go with me to IKEA? Do you want to do something fun? And he could read the fucking emails and see, like, her emailing her girlfriends, like, yeah, I need someone to go with me to IKEA to get a new bed and to set it up for me because I can't do this. I think I will text Joe. Like, I don't really like him, but yeah, he can. Yeah, but I just need him right now. And that is distasteful. That is disgusting behavior. But Joe wouldn't notice if he didn't stalk her email, so that's kind of, yeah, you know, like, we would have never known she was this manipulative if he couldn't read her email. But she was not innocent in this as well. Like, she went along with this. She has this really weird behavior as well. But Joe, like, his stalking behavior could not be excused. Like, it was the things he did. I was just, at the end of the book, I was like, are you being serious? Just give up on her. She doesn't want you. Like, can we just stop? Like, if he didn't read the email, he wouldn't have whole hope. Like, but she kept emailing her girlfriends as well, like, I miss Joe so much. And then he read her email, so he knew, like, oh, she misses me. She will text me or call me soon. And then he was, like, lying in front of her house in a bush, and was like, I will lie here until she calls or texts me. And I was like, it sounds so damn weird if I talk about it like that. And it is damn weird. It is weird. And I couldn't enjoy the book, and I will definitely not read the sequel. I read Velva Jean Learns to Drive, the first book in the Velva Jean series, which has People of Color in it by Jennifer Niven. And I rate this book 5 stars. It was my only 5-star read in a month, and this was historical fiction. I read All the Bright Places by Jennifer Niven, and I'm really sorry I didn't get it right now. But I rated that on 5 stars. It was so beautiful, so beautiful. And then I decided I want to read more by Jennifer Niven this past month, so I did. I picked up her historical fiction series because she had only written adult novels before All the Bright Places. So I picked up Velva Jean, and Velva Jean is a series. I think that consists of 3 books now, but so I picked this one up, and it was written in such a different way to in comparison to All the Bright Places, but it was so beautiful, and it was like a whole life with Velva Jean, and I absolutely loved it. Like, I loved Velva Jean as a character, and I loved the family, and I loved learning about everything. The only thing I didn't like was Velva Jean's husband eventually, which I won't say the name of because it's a huge spoiler, but she gets married eventually, and her husband is nice at first, but after that I'm like, please leave him. And the ending of this book made me so happy. I can't wait. Ooh, I can't wait to pick. I almost pushed over this stack of books. I still didn't get rid of my book unhaul stack. I didn't. But I love this book so much. The ending was amazing, and I honestly can't wait to pick up the sequel, which is called Velva Jean Learns to Fly, and it's so good. I read The Violinist of Venice, a story of Vivaldi by Alyssa Palombo, which I rated 3 stars. I talked about this in my weekly reading vlog for week 13, I think. 13 or 12, I think 13. I will link down below whichever video it is if you want to know more about this book. So I'm going to keep it short because I wrapped up my thoughts nicely in that video. But I didn't like Vivaldi. Like, I wasn't really a big fan of Vivaldi, which was the story was most about. It was written from the viewpoint of Adriano D'Amato, who is this fictional character who is in a love affair with Vivaldi, but I didn't like the first half. I like the second half better because Vivaldi was less in it, and it was more about Adriana than about her love affair with Vivaldi. And I liked Adriana as a character. I just didn't like Vivaldi because I kept picturing them as an old man with an 18-year-old girl, and I couldn't get into it. Then I read Go Ask Alice by Beatrice Sparks. I rated this one 3 stars also. I honestly thought this was a real diary by a really young girl who was on drugs, but I don't know why I thought that, because a young girl would never write like that, and it wasn't that much fun to read at all. But it was a fictional story written by Beatrice Sparks, and it was published as a real story, but it was just a made-up story from Beatrice Sparks, and I'm really not into that. Like, if it was a real story, I would have liked it more, but because I figured out it was a fictional story, it was like, oh, this is just a really meh book. Like, you know, if it was real diary, it would have been so cool, but it wasn't. So I wasn't really interested in it anymore. I didn't think it was special or anything, because it wasn't really written in a way that a 15-year-old girl would write. And then I read The Notebook, Dutch edition by Nicholas Sparks, which I also gave 3 stars. This is a contemporary book, even though it's set like years before ours. But it's a love story between a woman named Ellie and a guy named Noah, and I really love the Notebook film. Like, I watched it multiple times because I loved it so much, but I really love this edition. Like, look at the end pages of this. Like, isn't it so pretty? But I also think, like, look at it. Look at her hardcover. Like, so pretty. Like a swirly pattern. I really think it's a pretty book. I just wish the inside was as pretty as the outside. Like, I honestly think the movie adaptation is better than the book itself. Like, the movie was so truthful to the book. It really stuck to it. When I read this book, I really honestly could picture these scenes that took place in the movie, even though there were also a lot of scenes in the movie that I really missed in this book, you know? But maybe because I read it in Dutch, but I just didn't feel like I wanted to read anything else by Nicholas Sparks and just watch the movie adaptations. Like, the ideas of his stories are good, I just don't really particularly like his writing style, like, or the way the book is formatted. It was a bit, I cried at the end of the book, because the story was beautiful, but I just didn't like the way it was written. It was just so old in a way. Like, lovers now wouldn't speak to each other in the way that they spoke to each other. Maybe because it was a different time, of course, because it was a different time. But I just was annoyed at it. Like, I don't even know what I was looking for, to be honest. But I just rated 3 stars, and I don't think I'll ever pick up anything else by Nicholas Sparks, and I will just stick to the movies made from his books. And I read H.R.H. by Danielle. This book had people of colour in it because most of the story takes place in a country in Africa, and I rated this one 3 out of 5 stars. I really enjoy Danielle Steele's books. I really enjoy how you're living a whole life with one character, or how you experience all of these adventures with a certain character. Danielle Steele has a way of writing. She tells more than she shows, which is basically something a writer should never do. But I just don't mind with Danielle Steele because her stories are, I just like her stories. I just like the feeling of living a whole life or experiencing something with these characters that I like a lot. But I also felt like Danielle Steele repeated a lot in this book, and that is what I don't like. I don't like when things have to be repeated. I don't like when it has to be repeated that Christiana, the main character, who is a princess basically, that goes to work anonymously in a country in Africa to help out in this AIDS camp. But honestly, I just didn't like how it was repeated that Christiana was so diligent and so obedient and such a kind girl. Like, nothing was wrong with her. She was just a bit adventurous and she didn't want to do her duty as a princess, but she just wanted to go off and have her own adventures and do something to help the world. But there was nothing wrong with her. She had no flaws, and that's what annoyed me. Like, nobody's perfect. She had to have some flaws, except for the fact that she just wanted to save people instead of be a princess. Like, honestly, nobody is that good. The last book I read was a manga, which was Danganronpa, the first volume, which came out, I think or is set to come out. Anyway, it came out already, or it's set to come out this year. And this one had people of color in it, because all the characters in this book were Japanese. Like, it's from a Japanese company, it's a manga, obviously, and it has these Japanese characters in there. I put the author as Dave Steward, but obviously Dave Steward is the illustrator and not the author, because the author is this company called Chunsoft, I believe. But I put POC behind it because I think that this company had Japanese people behind it, so I put POC, like person of color, behind it, but I don't know for sure. Then I rated this volume 4 stars. Danganronpa the manga is a new thing. Danganronpa has been an anime, a video game, and I adored it. Like, I adored the first video game. Like, I've seen it played by a YouTuber and I enjoyed it so much. I haven't played it myself, but I've seen the whole first game. And this manga is based off of that first game. Like, this manga was so truthful to the first game. I was like, I wish I hadn't seen this first game being played, because I honestly knew everything that was coming, only it was coming in a faster way. Like, the Danganronpa is basically about all these teenagers who excel in something, like the ultimate pop star, the ultimate baseball star, and these teenagers are going to this school to become better at what they do. And they pass out when they get into the school, and when they wake up, they are locked in this school. Like, everything is closed off, they can't get out. Then a bear pops up, who is called Monokuma, and he is the director, the head of the school, the principal, basically. And the rule to get out is you have to kill someone and nobody can find out you were the one that killed that person, because you will get killed. But if no one figures out you are the killer, you will get out of the school and the rest of the students who are left will get executed. So nobody is not getting all out alive. There is no way in hell. So that's what the story is about. But the murders took place after each other a lot quicker than they did in the anime, or I don't know, I meant the video game, which I didn't like. Like, in the first volume there were 2 killings, 2 murders, and that wasn't the case. It wasn't that quick in the game. And also what I didn't like was that the manga ended in a cliffhanger, and like, was one murder and one last, so the second killing had taken place and the story ended after that. So I would recommend, if you want to read a manga, that you wait until a second volume comes out, or that you wait until all the volumes come out and then buy them all, or that you play the video game, because it's a full story, it has the same story, but it's all of it. Like, or you can watch the anime. I don't know if that is the same story, if that's all the same as the video game or the manga, or if the manga is going to take a totally different route to the video game or the anime. But we will see, I guess. I don't intend to go on with Danganronpa mangas. Like, I'm not really interested in it, and I already know how it will play out because I've seen the video game. I'd rather play the next video game in the Danganronpa series or watch the anime, you know? So I would recommend doing that, like play the video game or watch the anime instead of reading the manga. This is my March wrap up. My throat is hurting like hell because I talk so much. Anyway, thank you for watching. Let me know down below what you've read in March. Have you read any of the books I read? What you think of any of the books I read? Let me know down below. Thank you for watching. Goodbye!